Hi everyone, it's Eddie here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm using this PM Artist Studio stencil, Broken Snakeskin Scales. Say that 5 times fast. I'm going to create this really cool mermaid inspired gel print that's going to be more than a gel print, and you'll see why in a little bit. But first, to let you know, I'm using my 12 by 14 gel plate here, and I'm using the entire gel plate. I'll be printing on some sketch paper, the Yasutomo sketch paper. So that is, it's a 12 by 18 paper. So that'll fit perfectly. Now these are the first 3 colors I'm using for the background. There's peacock, there is, I believe that was bronze, and a turquoise blue. You can go back and look at that. Unfortunately didn't have everything written for myself today, but I think I can do this. So yeah, I'm going to do half the gel plate first, because obviously the mask doesn't cover the entire plate. So I'm going to do half, take my time, make sure it looks good. A good tip to keep in mind when doing this background is not to over mix it. You don't want one cohesive color, you want a mix of all the different colors, and to be able to see what the colors are. So like I said, what I'm going to do is I'm just flipping the stencil to the other side of the gel plate, and then I'll add the same colors to that side. You pull the stencil off, make sure you let this background dry completely on your plate before we go on to the next step. Many of you who've been watching my gel printing videos know that I love to clean the stencil off onto some tissue or paper, so I'm going to do that here. And I got this really cool scaly print on the carnival tissue, and on the brayer off got some cool stuff too, so I'm going to save those for something else. For this next part, once again, everything is completely dry on the plate. I'm going to take 4 different mica powders and fill in the empty areas where the stencil was. So I'm using sort of an orangey rusty color, and then a teal and a very dusty pale blue, and a iridescent burnt umber, which is like a nice shiny brown. It's dark, but it's not super dark. And I'm just using these makeup brushes, I guess they're called, to apply the mica powder directly onto the gel plate. And don't worry about movement. That mica powder is down. Once you've put it down, it's dry. And then, you can go on and move on to other types of media on top of it. So I'm just going to go through the different sections and add a little bit of each color and give it some shine. So now that we've got all the shiny mica powder down, I'm coming back in with acrylic paint. I'm using 3 colors. I'm using a bright orange, or an orange red actually, lime green, and a burnt umber. And I thought those coordinated really well with this whole mermaid inspired vibe that I'm going for. And the acrylics are actually watered down slightly, and also I added an extender a little bit to each of them, just so I could have a little more time to work, especially on this larger gel plate. And like, you know, with the mica powder, you want to go in and fill in the empty areas. I also go behind some of the mica, you know, over some of the mica powder, so that you get kind of different color blends going on. Because remember, this is not what we're going to see when we pull the final print. What we're going to see is the other side. So just keep that in mind when you're putting down your paint. Now, once this first layer dries completely, you're going to want to come back and add a second coating of the same acrylic paints just to boost the color, make it a little bit stronger, because thin down and then with the extender in it, it's a little thin. But I didn't want to like just glob it on the first layer, so I did 2 layers to help with that. So I really love how this is turning out so far, and I hope you're enjoying the process so far. It's not over yet, so just keep watching. Now we're going to pull this print, and I'm going to use the light permanent blue from Liquitex, and that's a great pickup color. It's a little thicker, and it will really push those colors forward from the back. So I think this is a great color to pull with. And I'm not using a ton of paint. It doesn't need it. It does need time to dry completely, and I can't stress this enough. Especially if you're using like a rice paper or like the sketch paper. I'm using the Yasutomo. Give it time to completely adhere to the plate. Otherwise, your paper's going to rip, or you're going to leave sections of the paint behind, and you don't want to put in all this work and then just rush to pick it up. So make sure you let it dry completely. And currently it is the middle of February, so our heat is on and it's very dry. So that helps with the whole drying process. But keep in mind those factors when you're trying to figure out timing where you are. So you may be in a place that's much more humid, and it's going to take a lot longer to dry. So just feel the back of the paper. If it's still cool, leave it down and let it do its thing. And look at that. This turned out awesome. It's a little, stuck down, but that's because there's a lot of layers of paint we had to get up. But look at that. Spectacular. And it feels good, but we're not done yet, so stay tuned, and in a second I will show you what we're going to do. For this next part, I want to create some texture over the print, and I'm using this mini circle horizon stencil from PM Artist Studio and a super thick gel from the Crafter's Workshop. It dries crystal clear, so I thought this would be a fun way to make some bubbles and texture on the print. And I'm just going to use, put it down in certain areas of the print, not completely over everything, and just kind of put some here and there. And like I said, this dries completely clear. Obviously it doesn't look clear on the screen, but that's because so when you are putting it down, you know where it is. But maintenance, again, clean off all your materials immediately after using this paste. Otherwise, it dries solid onto whatever you're using, like your stencil or your palette knife or whatever. So just make sure that you wash up very well. Now, after applying this gel medium to your project or whatever you're doing, it has to dry completely. It will dry completely clear, but you have to let it dry. Otherwise, it's just gonna, get all out of shape and weird. So just let it dry, be patient. Mine probably dried in about 2 hours because I had it close to where the heat comes up, so I kept it warm. Anyway, so now I'm on to stencil butters, and I'm going to use this seafoam and this iceberry. I'm going to mix them up to create a more unique color, and I cut out a couple of stencils just from Cricut, nothing fancy, of coral, and I'm going to use those with the stencil butter. As I apply the paste through the stencil, I'm not necessarily looking for a perfectly smooth look because it is coral and coral has texture to it. So I want to just let it be as it is and not try and smooth it out. So I'm mixing this sort of like a darker pink with some of the yellow to create a more corally color, I guess you could call it. And I like it. I like how it turned out. It looks really, really cool next to all the other colors, and it kind of works well with that orangey mica powder I added at the beginning. So I'm just doing those 3 stencil of the coral. I'm just doing 3 at the bottom. And then I'm taking the scale stencil back over certain areas and applying some texture paste through those. So you've got some, your more flat scales, and then you've got your, your textured parts, and it's really cool. Once it dries, it's really fun to just run your hand over it. It's awesome. So once you finish with your adding the texture paste and all that, let this dry on a flat surface, just completely. I let mine dry overnight, and in a second you'll see photos of it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you try this, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Talk to you soon.